So, Rebecca, we have a bunch of extremely light emails that are really surface level and just kind of...
I've been like psychic. I did some reading. I was like trying to prep, and then I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to have to wing it because this shit is like, each one could be a master's thesis, could be a graduate level research project, but, bring it on.
But that's why people love you, because you're real. If nothing, you're real.
If nothing, I have a real opinions.
Well, but you're also just a real human being. You don't edit, which is good.
Yeah.
People can trust you.
Yes.
I can trust you.
Thank you.
Listener Nader from Peru, he says...
Well, let's just... So just everyone know, this is just my opinion as an individual. I am a trauma therapist. I am 98.6% Ashkenazi Jew, because that question is going to come in here. Oh my God.
I'm moving the desk.
Jesus Christ. That was like super intense.
I forgot to move. So I have this standing desk.
I mean, but everyone should know it's like gigantic and an L shape. It's not like teeny tiny, like you just have your laptop on it. Like half the room just sunk.
Yeah, and all of the equipment is hooked up to it, all the lights and cameras and microphones and interfaces and
the 5 screens, 6 screens.
The many screens. So listener Nader from Peru, he says, I was wondering if you and Rebecca might have a take on cultural or historical trauma and how it might play out on an entire population as a reflection of how it plays out individually. I'm especially interested in how it plays out in the Jewish and Palestinian communities. In my view, how the Jewish community needed to overcorrect for safety after the trauma of the Holocaust, and how, in view of the current genocide in Gaza, it is only natural for traumatized people to fight back. Not making any judgment here, just trying to describe what is happening as best I can. By the way, I'm of Palestinian descent, and I have some close Jewish friends. Love the podcast, and all the co-hosts are amazing. So, Rebecca, the question is cultural and historical trauma and the group and the individual, and specifically around what listener Nader from Peru is saying. The Jewish community needed to overcorrect for safety after the trauma of the Holocaust. So even though most, if not all, well, there's probably a few left, but the vast majority of people in Israel had not lived through the Holocaust themselves, but the transgenerational or the intergenerational trauma could affect people in a lot of ways, directly and indirectly. That could result in what listener Nader is saying is overcorrecting.
So talk about, if we're going to do this, you cannot shake your leg.
Sorry.
Because it makes the mic shake and I can't focus.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm shaking my leg because I've had my coffee. And Rebecca, what do you think?
So this issue's so big. So first off, I feel like I need to define terms. Like it's not just the Jewish identity. It's specifically the Israeli Zionist conservative identity that currently controls the politics of that country. I'm an American Jew all the way here in Seattle. I would never starve anyone to get back at them for perceived crimes. So we should probably date ourselves. We are in early August of 2025. The situation in Gaza has degenerated to the point of mass famine. It's horrific. Yeah. It's been horrific for a year and a half.
Degenerated, just to make sure.
Yeah. So what is the intergenerational trauma that brings forth this intensity? And I was thinking about, for you, like, does anybody ever write in and say, like, Kirk, can you describe why the Japanese were so awful to the Koreans in World War II? Like, like there's this way that people are like, oh, Rebecca must know the answer to this because, she's Jewish. But
Well, of the people that listener Nader could email into, you are perhaps the best person to answer the question. I'm going to take a guess and say that you have a better answer than most people would.
Yeah. So I'll just put more context, and so that people know, we have done an entire episode on this right when the October thing happened, where I went super in depth. So the Jewish identity around protecting ourselves, the Israeli identity about having a strong military, protecting itself under, in terms of, there is no question whether it would protect itself. How that idea of protecting itself could go to marginalizing, starving, pummeling another population. I have to say, I don't know how we got here, honestly. It must be intergenerational trauma. It must be that folks have built themselves up to think this is the right thing to do. I also, when I was in Israel in '86, there was a news blackout in Israel itself. I think things have changed so much, it can't possibly be that people don't know exactly what's happening. But there is some possibility that people don't.
But even if they did have access to a lot of the information, it can be terrifying when there are missiles and terrorist attacks that are really happening. So I don't necessarily blame the citizen on the ground, because they're just trying to live their lives. And obviously the Palestinians are just trying to live their lives too.
Yeah.
And are much, on average, more impacted negatively by a long shot than the average Israeli citizen. But yeah, I just, obviously, to me, I just see a lot of people in Israel that are afraid for a lot of good reasons and a lot of perhaps propaganda reasons. And it's been going on our whole lives.
Yeah, and
this isn't anything new. This is a new manifestation,
right.
And it shouldn't be downplayed. But
right. But also, like, Netanyahu just gets more and more brazen each time he comes into power, with this idea that he can protect. This is the only way. And there is a concept that people are starting to talk about in the Jewish American world that we were taught: Israel at any cost. Like, you can't question Israel. You can't question Israel's existence. You can't question Israel's tactics. That's how I was brought up, even in a Reform Jewish setting. And, to watch organizations like Jewish Voices for Peace, who are now strongly speaking out that this is not done in my name, right? This is horrific. This will go down in history as one of the worst war crimes of all time. I haven't seen it yet, but the 40th anniversary of Live Aid happened, and there was a 4-part documentary on CNN.
48th?
40th.
40th of Live Aid.
Yeah.
Huh.
And the producer said the thing that was most emotional to him...
What's his face?
The producer? Oh, no, not Bob Geldof, who produced the event. The producer of the CNN show said the thing that brought him to tears the most was the idea that the American public would gather foreign oppressed, starving people and do everything they could to raise money to help them. And
did you say American people?
Yes.
Yeah, because there was Band-Aid, which
right.
was the British version, and Live Aid was the American version. Right?
Yeah. And he was saying that he couldn't imagine America galvanizing right now against to aid a starving people in another country. That's just not how our populace works anymore. Mm. And so many people I know are giving absolutely everything they can to end the genocide in Gaza, and there's no clear way forward. It's stopping U.S. aid.
Yeah.
It's stopping U.S. military aid to Israel. It's stopping the blockades of food. It's humanizing the Palestinian people. I know I'm not answering this guy's question.
Well, do you think?
I don't even know how.
Do you think it's related specifically in part
to
the Holocaust trauma being passed down?
Yes, the sense of, so the thing that gets said over and over again is never again. That we will do anything we can to stop the Holocaust. The idea, it was never mentioned that we could exert a Holocaust on another people. That just like, that part isn't taught. And I think that's what's gone horribly wrong, is this idea. So I'm thinking of world history class. She had all these pithy maxims up. This is ninth grade in San Diego in 1994. There were all these phrases all around.
When you were at school with Tucker Carlson?
He was gone.
He was graduated.
No, he was a year behind me.
Oh.
And I was only in school with him when I was in 8th grade and he was in 7th grade.
Ah.
But he was such a strong personality that all the 8th graders knew who he was.
Really?
Yes.
Strong personality, how?
He was just
like popular or?
Popular, grandiose, swaggery.
Interesting.
A big deal with the ladies.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. So she had a bunch of phrases, but one of them was power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And so giving the Israelis who feel marginalized and scared complete power over the Palestinians, even though there are bombings, and of course those things are terrifying, has, magnified over years and years and years this complete blockade. So there's this idea that when the Palestinians attacked Israel, killed lots of people, took, I believe it was like 71 or 72 hostages, and all of this current action comes out of that. So we're like beyond an eye for an eye. I believe it's 60,000 children have died in this. Like, at what point?
Are there Israelis that use that as justification, the Old Testament eye for an eye?
I'm sure there are.
I mean, is that an overt?
That is the language I grew up with.
Yeah.
I grew up with, I can't name them now, but I knew every time Israel had been attacked growing up in Jewish education. We were taught these are all the times that the Jews succeeded over being attacked. It was always portrayed much more as a military thing, that we were
fighting other militaries.
Yes, we were strong, we were intelligent, we were better than everyone else. We were so small, but we were able to win over and over again. This is because we are the chosen people. We deserve this land. Like, this is all of the language that I grew up with. And it took till I was like 18 to be like, wait a second. And I told this story the last time that a friend of mine told me, hey, Israel is an apartheid state. And I was like, what? So, to think that you have to have this place and you'll do anything to keep this place because 6 million of your brethren were killed by someone else.
Can you imagine going a different route when you were 18 if you had a different context, like living in Israel, for example? Maybe you had a brother that had been harmed by an attack or was worried. Can you imagine taking a different road?
So that's called Aliyah, and many of my friends have done that. And one of my former lovers is still there. She won't speak to me because of that I'm not supportive of what Israel is doing.
But the freedom or the breathing room that you have in West Coast United States, there's still anti-Semitism, of course, but if you weren't, you're not there, and so can you imagine yourself having absorbed all of that?
Yeah,
all of those notions.
I mean, it was almost every Jewish person I knew. We had this conversation at some point. Everybody got caught by the spirit at some point. I should go make Aliyah. I should go live in Israel. I should be
Aliyah. What's that?
Aliyah is when I don't know if it's any person, but it's any American Jew that goes to live in Israel. It's called to make Aliyah. Like
to
return to the homeland and live.
I see.
As a Jew there.
As like a true Jewish person?
It's more like to return to your people and get to live a Jewish life. Like, what if Shabbat was observed? Like, there's all of these kind of subtleties of Jewish life that I don't get to experience as an American Jew, is to have my culture be the mainstream culture. Yeah, it's real attractive to a lot of people.
Yeah, I've worked with clients, Jewish clients, who would tell me about one aspect of this is that research shows that unless you in the United States as a Jewish person live an extremely Orthodox, comparatively to other kinds of Jewish people in the United States, then your kids are like 95% chance not likely to be observing Jewish people. So in order to preserve culture and religion and tradition, the only way you can do it is you either have to be extremely swimming against the grain, swimming upstream, right, to force your family and kids, who probably will resist the entire way, to observe and to follow the rules, to go to an Orthodox synagogue, to force your kids to learn Hebrew and all that stuff, or you go to Israel. That's the only way that your grandkids are likely to be Jewish.
Yeah.
Jewish in culture and practicing.
Right.
So it's I could see that being another incentive. But you didn't really answer the question.
I know, I can't.
And you don't have to, but
I don't think I can.
I'm just wondering, given your experience having absorbed, because I wonder if people wonder, I know that people wonder, how can all these people in Israel, the percentage that support the conservative military action, of which there are many, how can they be that way?
Yeah.
And the relatability that you can offer, but maybe you can't really, is that you grew up having absorbed all that stuff, but there were factors that perhaps gave you the freedom to think outside the box or to choose otherwise. Can you imagine having grown up in Israel and being at least more sympathetic to the conservative?
I mean, so I will say I have lots of friends who are completely sympathetic. I have clients
that are in the States.
Who are in the States.
Not even people in Israel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who believe that Israel is doing the exact right thing and has to defend itself. That's when things get messy. That's when it's like, how is this defending yourself? Like, how is starving? So what has happened, and I am reminded of when I was in Croatia and the war between the Croatians and the Serbians. The civil war was in the 90s, but when I asked people, like, why are these animosities so intense, they would go back to an event that happened in the 1100s when the Russian Orthodox and the Roman Orthodox Church split. So that's how old that fight is. And the hatred is palpable between the two groups. So would I have drunk the Kool-Aid? I guess is what you're asking. Would I believe that it was true, that we had to do this? We had to starve the entire Gaza population because Hamas is in every single person that lives in Gaza, and any person in Gaza wants to kill a Jew? I don't think so. Just because of how I'm wired, I think I would have asked a lot of questions. And yet, super intelligent people that I care about completely believe it 100%. Yeah.
Well, let's take a break and let's answer another question on the same topic. What do you say?
On the same topic?
Yeah. All right, back from the break. So people have questions, Rebecca.
I don't know if I have any answers. I don't have answers today.
I think you have answers. You've given answers that I'm quite sure are interesting / helpful to people listening. Annual patron, she says, I am a psychotherapist with a private practice in Israel. Therapist, private practice, Israel. I am heartbroken over the many lives lost over the last 2 years in Gaza, Israel, West Bank, and Lebanon. As a family, we have considered moving abroad multiple times, yet recently Israel has also become embroiled in an all-out conflict with Iran. There are no flights out anyway. Is that true?
It could easily be. Nothing is like being in the Jerusalem airport when something goes down and you're just stuck. Beth has a whole story about this. The only flight out she could get during the Gulf War was to London.
Huh. Because of the worries of being shot down. Or
attack, or no one will fly in or out. They're like, I'm not going,
Yeah. The danger seems more imminent, and I am seeing the impact on my patients.
Yeah.
One burning question many of my patients ask is, how can I remain so calm with Iran shooting missiles at us nightly? In truth, I'm concerned I might be a little dissociated from the danger that they feel. Okay, so the annual patron
So
is...
the patron, the clinician themselves has become more and more numb, or can compartmentalize. I don't know the answer.
Right. Numb, compartmentalized, or perspective, or something.
Or so focused on holding her client's energy. I mean, I find that sometimes, don't you? That like you kind of are just so focused on holding the client's experience that
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and
you
there's
don't
pros
have
and cons,
yours.
right? There's a side of it that is denying of one's needs, but I think there's another part of it of meaning and purpose of, well, with this fear and worry and concern, I'm gonna funnel it into something that I can do, which is to help other people. And I don't think that's necessarily being a denial.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that with the Trump election, I was like, oh, here we go. And all my clients were just beside themselves. And there was a level of calm that I had. And they were like, why are you so calm? And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But more and more I'm hearing of people leaving the States. And I'm like, did I miss the boat? Like, should I have already planned to leave already? It's
I think
wild.
everyone has a different gauge about that sort of thing, you know. For some people, it's important to at least contemplate leaving for various reasons. And I think for other people, it's just not, like for me, it's
I'm like, where would it go? Like,
well, not only that, but it's just not on the table. Like the concerns. I mean, part of it has to do with privilege, but also just I am of this land. My people have been here for over 100 years, which, you know, on the global scale isn't very long, but for an American, it's a long time to have been raised and have been farmers in Washington State, you know. And
you've always lived here,
yeah.
too.
So I just, it just isn't really a question.
So how is that clinician feeling? So I would say check in with your body just to make sure, you know, do you have insomnia? Are you developing an ulcer? Like there are ways that your body can act out that you might not even realize are happening. That happens sometimes in really traumatic times. That happened to me during the pandemic. I got excruciatingly constipated and like didn't even realize it.
Yeah, looking back at the pandemic, I, of course, knew that it wasn't a great time, but I, too, was not aware of the toll it was taking on my mind and soul. That's typical for me. But after a certain level of therapy and age, you'd think I wouldn't be that unaware.
But, you know, coping is crazy. So I'll give the flip side of all of this. There's a serial arsonist in my neighborhood right now. Do you know about this?
No.
Oh, God. They burnt the Mount Baker Beach house where the lifeguards are. You know that?
I think I heard about that.
Yeah. They burnt the mortuary at the beginning of Columbus City, which is like a landmark building.
Really?
Yeah. It's so much worse in person than it is in the photos.
Wow.
And then there's just like at least 4 house fires that are connected. And that I couldn't hold it together. Like my clients who lived in the neighborhood came in sobbing. I sobbed with them.
I mean, that's just like a block from your office, right?
Yeah. The day the mortuary burnt, the smell was so bad. My eyes were burning. I started coughing, like whatever was in the building. And it was just the front half. It wasn't the back half with the bodies in it and all that. Thank God all the bodies are fine. And they've now moved everything. But it was like, it hit me so bad. I had a client crying in my office and I was just crying with her. I was like, this is the worst. This is the worst. So I will say, you know, there's times where I can hold it together. There's times where I fall apart. But that's part of the work, is the ebbs and the flows of that.
Yeah. Yeah, just another last asterisks I'll say about the decision to move or more broadly what this therapist in Israel is getting at is how come all the people that I feel akin to, you know, people who see the world as I do, they're all, quote unquote, freaking out, and I'm not. And the thing that I'll say about that is that I've noticed for decades now that each of us absorbs the reality of life and the world and news and humanity and global crises in a cyclical manner, in that for you, therapists in Israel, you might have freaked out earlier. and the freak out, quote unquote, resolved, and you could say numbness, but you could also just say a certain
There's a level
perspective.
of grounded, right? A level of groundedness.
Yeah, of I've grieved, I've made plans, I've accepted the unacceptable, I've accepted the lack of power and control I have over this, and I'm satisfied with what I'm doing, and I just have to move forward. And other people are on a different point of that cycle.
Yeah.
And because what I see a lot of people doing is that they will shame themselves, or they will be shamed for not freaking out with everyone else, as if they don't care, or they're sticking their head in the sand, or they're complicit with the oppressor or the problem. And I just think that is complete bullshit. No one can judge another person for not freaking out. You know what I mean?
And also it's the level of support. So this question came up, I do that tarot thing the other day, on another person. And we did a reading for someone who had decided to leave and was moving to Spain, like eminently, and had a plan and was selling off everything. And we had an interesting conversation with them. And when the co-host on that show, Sylvia, the person who was moving has known them for decades and said, I could see why you wouldn't need to move. You have such a strong community here. There's so much activism that you do here. And I thought that was really interesting, that the person who was moving could say to another person, I could see why you wouldn't need to move. This place still fills you. You still get to do what you love here. And so another classic example was when I was in Spain for a month and learned all about the Franco regime and all of that. The idea that Picasso left and Moreau stayed, and you had these two great artists who made such different choices under a fascist regime. And I got really into Moreau for a while, of like, how did he stay? He kept his people laughing. He did all these things. He made some super interesting art. He started setting his art on fire. Like there was, sometimes people stay and sometimes people go.
Yeah, and I love all that. And even if people stay and they're not an activist, everyone has the right to live their lives. And it's as if you're not a true liberal if you're not on the edge of leaving the United States right now. And that is fucking bullshit. Like that kind of infighting is, exactly what the opposition wants us to do. So everyone, make your own choices about that, and don't feel like you have to defend yourself at all. And definitely don't attack other people for coming to a different conclusion about that.
I also strongly believe that if I have to go, it will be someone from a podcast listener that will save me. I have no other contacts around the world. I have no other plan. But if
what do you mean that another podcast listener would take you in?
Yeah, I think that if you're
all right, y'all. So send in your emails if you have an extra couch.
Yeah, if it's really if this country becomes inhospitable, my own literally you are my only hope.
What sort of countries are you thinking about?
I mean, I don't know where it would take me.
Mexico, Spain,
Ireland seems to like the lesbians right now. I don't speak Spanish, Scandinavia, I don't know, Portugal, everyone's going to Portugal.
Well, yeah, you gotta think about Sweden. I mean, Sweden's better at us and everything.
Yeah, if you would have me.
And from my understanding, pretty much everyone speaks English in Sweden.
I'm a really good trauma therapist.
And some of my favorite bands are from Sweden. I mean, you got First Aid Kit, Roxette, You've got
is
Robin.
the girl in red from Sweden.
Girl in red?
Yeah, she's
I don't know that person.
lesbian. There's a dead girl in the pool. Summer depression. She's the best.
Sounds interesting.
I love her.
Radio department, I think, is
ABBA.
ABBA, of course. Yeah. All right. Let's take a break and another email along these lines.
Oh my God.
All right, back from the break. Actually, I don't know from
what lines we're talking about.
Well, no. This is a completely different thing.
Okay. But also
but to
really
you.
intense.
I can't remember. Long-term annual patron and YouTube member Brandon from God knows where. Thank you for being a long-term annual
Thank
patron
you.
and YouTube member, Brandon. He says, "Hi, Kirk and Rebecca. First,
Do you live in Sweden? No.
I don't know if there's a lot of Brandons in Sweden. First, I love the podcast and particularly get excited whenever I hear a Rebecca-sode.
Oh.
I hope this email isn't taken the wrong way, but I heard something that Rebecca
Oh, yes. I
said
remember this question.
that upset me.
Yeah.
Upset me.
Yeah.
During your episode titled Groomers, Turmeric, and Bigots, you briefly mentioned Strom Thurmond, a racist and anti-civil rights senator from South Carolina and his half-black child.
Mm-hmm.
When you mentioned that Thurmond had a child, and by the way, this must have been you, because I...
Yes. No. So I remember this, and I have. So the question is, did I say that child was born out of love, or did I mention that child was born out of rape?
Yeah.
And I did not mention that child was born out of rape, and that was because I I was so freaked out that I had done it wrong.
So I don't remember you talking about
I remember this
and I don't know anything about the story.
yesterday.
But Brandon is saying, yeah, from the episode, the impression was that Thurman and this woman had a secret relationship. They were in love, but it sounds like the real story is that
she was an employee.
Was raped.
Yeah, she was an employee of the family. He raped her.
Yeah. He was 22 and she was 16. Carrie Butler.
Yes.
And he was their domestic servant. So she was 16.
Yes.
And this was in the 20s, it sounds like. Okay, so so it sounds like you knew this.
I did, and I'm very sorry that I wasn't more explicit. Often we are bringing up things on the fly.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of, yeah. So but I will say what was shocking about that was that the way that, and I didn't say it right on the air. Someone said I made it sound like storm, and it's Strom.
Oh, Strom.
Strom.
I think I said storm earlier.
Yeah.
Well, in the email, it's spelled storm, but it must be
I think
like
it's
a typo.
Strom Thurmond. Anyways, we are of the age that he was a major player in U.S. politics, and his anti-black rhetoric was so intense growing up. He was so racist, and it was shocking to think of him having any kind of contact with anyone besides white people. When I learned that he had a child, I mean, it's not surprising because power over happens all the time, and rape is one way to have power over. But yeah, I want to apologize that I didn't mention how awful he was, that he was also a rapist.
Yeah.
Along with being a horrible, horrible bigot.
Brandon goes on to say, anyways, love the podcast.
Anyways, anywho.
You both taught me so much about myself and about relationships. And because of listening to this podcast, I am becoming a therapist as my second career.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Wow.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah.
Party on.
Patron Noah from...
This is like a speed round.
It is. Well, there's so many, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Patron Noah from Queens. She writes in, it says, hello, Dr. Kirk and Rebecca. Thank you so much for responding to my email. It was so insightful, and I found Rebecca's empathy as a Jewish woman to be amazing. Okay, just chiming in. I don't remember specifically.
This is the one about the boyfriend has an anti-Semitic friend.
Yeah.
Why is my memory so good? I don't know.
Going on. I'm wondering if it is of interest to you that this sexist and anti-Semitic friend of my ex's is an extreme liberal and a gay man and an enrolled member of the Native American tribe. Oh, I see. So in the email,
So can a marginalized person be awful in other ways? Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. And the sexism among gay men is no joke. There are some gay men that really, really hate women. And hating Jews is very popular. I would never... There are tons of marginalized groups that hate Jews.
yeah. Just look at Kanye West.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Do I have to?
Going on, what have your encounters been with sexism? And he said liberals and sexism and gay. And he said, well, what about liberals specifically?
Are liberals sexist? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the women's movement comes out of the Vietnam War movement, where women were treated like such crap. And, white men felt like they had all of the important roles and should do all the important things, and women should just run the mimeograph machine and be there to quench men's sexual appetites. Out of that sexism comes the women's movement, where they're like, why am I fighting so hard for something when I'm getting treated like such shit?
Yeah.
So there's a long history of sexism in liberal movements, and women having to fight extremely independently. I mean, I would say so. And in another example of that, so the reason it's LGBT, the reason that L starts it off, is that the sexism in the gay community for decades, and the acknowledgement that if it wasn't for lesbian women, gay men wouldn't have survived the AIDS crisis, right? Like, it is...
That's specifically why?
Yes. Yeah. You can
because
look it up.
I thought it was just that there was, not just, but yeah, it's funny because I find that most people don't know or forget or weren't around when these terms are being used. But it took me a long time to put L first, because for many years it was GLB, and it was in the T.
No T.
It was just GLB. Well, for a while it was gays and lesbians. Then it was like, well, what about bisexual? So that's that first movement to have the letters. So it was GLB, and then it was GLBT, and then it was LGBT. So the vibe that I got was, because at the university there's a lot of conversations around this kind of thing, and the vibe that I got was the movement away from having men be the norm and women being the
secondary.
Yeah. It's like, oh, there's a doctor. Oh, there's a female doctor, so like with he or she, I remember in academia, there was this huge movement to say she or he, just as to
God bless academics.
Mix it up. Yeah. And I remember that in the 90s. And then I remember at the same time it went LG. And so my interpretation was it was just another element of that movement of just like, let's not always put men first. But you're saying it's specifically around
you can look
AIDS.
it up. It's specifically to acknowledge that without lesbians, gay men would have not survived the AIDS epidemic, that it was lesbians that stood up and cared for so many men that didn't have families.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, what you'll hear specifically, Patron Noah from Queens, about marginalized people being bigoted is that, one, they have internalized the dominant narrative, and two, they're trying to appeal to the dominant narrative by acting like the dominant narrative, right? It's like, hey, white people, I'm racist too. Can I now be accepted? And that's absolutely potentially part of it, and obviously internalized bigotry. But also, some people are just bigots, and they just happen to be people of color, or they just happen to be liberals. So it's not always explained through the appeal to the groups of power. Anyone can be bigoted. Anyone can be us versus them.
Lots of marginalized populations are also extremely homophobic. Like this idea that we don't see the oppression of one and the oppression of all.
Yeah.
You got to work to get over this stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's changing, but there was a simplistic notion among the masses, like on TikTok and stuff, that if you're a person of color, like everything you think and say is okay. And it's just like, what the fuck, right? Anyway, well,
What the fuck? And on that note,
let's end here. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because
we love you, and you're going to rescue us when the shit hits the fan. So take care of yourself so you can take care of us.